if you've been working on your pelvic health and on trying to increase your pelvic floor function and strength, then maybe you've gotten to the stage where you feel that just doing Kegels alone isn't sufficient and that you need something to help you get a little bit more strength. And typically when you get to that stage, so where you have a good connection between your brain and your pelvic floor and you're able to achieve a good contraction across all of the different parts of your pelvic floor, then it's time to start to look at adding some resistance. And we typically add resistance in the form of weights, just the same as if you were to go to the gym and you were to lift some weights. So we're going to look at a number of different weights that are available on the market. So we'll start with the older style weights. Now, always with vaginal weights, the darker color is the heavier weight. So in this little set, we have the bigger, lighter weight is the lightest color, and then we have a slightly darker weight, which is a little heavier, and then the heaviest weight is the dark color. And these aren't very heavy. The heaviest one here, I think, is 50 grams or thereabouts, so it's not very heavy on this set. But if we look, these ones, they have this little device. So you insert this part into the vagina. So you put it in the same as you would a tampon. So you slip it in so that you're not really feeling it. It goes just in past the muscle, in just a little bit deeper. So this little part here is on the outside of the vagina. And when you squeeze, you know with these weights that you're actually doing the contraction properly, because this little thing lifts up towards your vagina as you're squeezing the weight. So as you're contracting, it creates a little bit of lift, and you can see that you're doing the weight properly. You always insert it with this little thing facing up towards you. So this is one type of weight. And typically when you start with weights, you'll start lying down and just getting used to doing the contractions. But then we can do all sorts of things, all sorts of exercises with these weights in. So this is one type of weight. These are pretty old actually. So we put these to one side. And then we have these are a newer type of weight. And these are made with a medical grade silicone, as were the last ones. And these, we have different weights. These get a little bit heavier. So this goes up to 125 grams. And it starts, I think the lightest one, there's hardly any weight in this at all. This is like 5 or 10 grams. So not heavy. Now these weights, you can see the shape. They're cherries. They're called cherries. These, I find the shape of these isn't very good. They're just a little bit wide. So they're all the same width, but I actually had difficulty getting one of these weights out, so I don't actually recommend these ones. But we're all a little bit different. We're all shaped a little different. So you can try, if you like this shape, you should definitely use it. So it's the same with pessaries. If you're trying to have a pessary fitted, it's not one size fits all. We all have different vaginas. We have different muscles. Things are strong in different places than others. So you need to try, but these ones didn't really work for me, but they are, the weight is good. The weight on them is good. And then we have these other ones. Now these ones are made by a company called Intimate Rose, and these are really, really nice. Now these are my favorite weights. If you look, they have a shape very similar to like a chunky tampon, shall we say. So they're a little bit thicker. They're not as fat as the cherries. So for me, these actually go in easier and they also come out easier. And it's very important, the coming out part, because your muscles can actually spasm if you do too much weight training. And then it can be very, very difficult to remove them. I do know someone who had to go to the emergency room to have her weights pulled out. They had to inject her with some muscle relaxants before they could take the weight out. So you really need to be careful when using these. But these ones I haven't had any issues with. These I had difficulty getting out. These ones, none whatsoever. And there's a good variation. So you have 6 different weights here, and these also go up to 125 grams, and that's actually pretty heavy. That's like lifting a big weight with your arms. So you're never going to start on the heaviest weight. You're always going to start on the lighter weight and work your way up. So these are really, really nice. We also have, you may have seen the Jade Egg. Well, this is similar to a Jade Egg. So these eggs come in 3 different sizes. And each size, obviously, one is a little heavier than the other. They're made from the same material. These ones are quartz. Now, the challenge with these eggs is that with all of these other ones, you just, when you use them, before and after use, you just wash them with a little bit of soap and water. Whereas with these ones, because they are permeable, it's very difficult to actually get them properly clean. So before you use them, you need to boil them in a pot of water, and you need to let them boil for a little while to try and make sure that they're properly sterilized. But it's hard to guarantee that you're actually going to fully sterilize them. So you can use them if you want. These are, if you're a yogi, these are likely your egg of choice. I actually prefer to use the medical grade silicone because I know that it's sanitized. It's easier to sanitize, shall we say, than these ones. But these provide actually quite some resistance as well. And if you've seen any of the vaginal weightlifting, there's quite a lot of vaginal weightlifting here on YouTube. You will have some people that actually tie things to the ends of the strings on these eggs, and they use them to lift weights. So maybe a bowling ball or a chandelier. I don't recommend that you do that, but there are a lot of people doing that sort of thing. So if you want to try, it's at your own risk. I wouldn't do it. And then we have this little device. So this is pretty old. This is a resistance device. So these have been on the market for a really long time, actually. And with them, you get these different weights or springs. And the springs have different tensions. So you see, this one is a very light tension, very, very easy to squeeze. And this one is much harder. It's even hard for me to squeeze that with my finger and thumb. So with these, you basically place the spring, you can place it in the second slot or in the first slot if you want it to be a little bit harder. And then you close this down, and then you have to close it and put it into the vagina and then let it go. You always make sure that it's opening, so you put the bottom part towards facing down towards your backside, and the front part facing up towards your vagina, so towards your urethra. And with this one, you have to squeeze. So it's like if you've ever had one of those hand exercisers that you squeeze to build strength in your little wrist flexors. It's the same sort of thing. And this is quite hard. It's quite a lot of resistance. So it's another way to change up your training. It's really up to you. Maybe you don't want to put anything inside your vagina. I know some people don't like to put anything in there. But if you want to take your training up a notch, and if you want to try to work things a little bit harder, then of course with the guidance of and the approval of your either your physician, your gynecologist, or your pelvic floor therapist, you can use these types of devices.